I'm Chad Harvey, and this is AI for the C-Suite, the show for senior leaders who know that AI matters and need to figure out what to do about it. Each episode, we dig into what it all actually means for middle market organizations, how it's changing decisions, strategy, leadership, and the nature of work. Let's get into it. There's one question that I keep hearing from executives. It's some version of, I know AI is important, but where do we actually start? And today's guest has spent the last decade answering that exact question. Dr. Sam is the president and co-founder of Yegatech, where she helps CEOs and boards develop AI strategies that actually stick. Her background gives her a unique vantage point. She spent years at Autodesk in Silicon Valley, where she led product platforms and first started applying machine learning to real engineering problems way back in 2015, long before ChatGPT made AI a dinner table conversation. What I appreciate about Sam's approach is that she wrote her book, Disrupt It, specifically for non-technical leaders. She's trained over 10,000 professionals on AI, and her framework focuses on something most tech conversations skip: getting your organization ready before you bring in the tools. Dr. Sam, welcome to AI for the C-Suite.
Hi, Chad. Thanks for having me on your podcast. I appreciate that.
You bet. I'm excited to dig in with you. And
Same here.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right. As we were talking before we started recording, you've been working with AI since 2015, well before the current hype cycle. And I'm interested in that perspective. When you talk to middle market executives today, what's the biggest misconception that they have about AI?
Just back to your point about working with AI back in 2015, one misconception that myself had was AI is just for big tech company. Because back in time we had AI engineers, we had experts in AI, and we've been working to see how we can leverage machine learning and AI models for figuring out how an airplane could be designed, which materials we need to consider, even for 3D printing, how we can optimize the process itself. And I've never thought that such a technology could be accessible in such a small device one day. That was the thing that I've never thought would happen anytime soon, at least in my lifetime. And actually, I'm happy because it was just dominated by big tech companies and whoever had the money to afford those big tech companies and ask them for their help. But right now it's like a big opportunity for everyone, like even mid-sized, small-sized companies, they can take advantage of what's in front of them. And also what it means for them is in the past, these medium-sized companies or even small-sized companies, whenever they wanted to pick up a project or do something in addition to what they had to look around and hire more people, adding headcount. And in most cases, they have budget limitations or they have limited access to skilled workers, and it was difficult to balance these two. But right now with AI, that door is open for opportunities, and we can increase capacities, we can increase productivity. It's possible with a short amount of subscription, we can do a lot with technologies that is available today.
Do you find that many leaders are still stuck in, let's call it the initial phase when the first large language model, ChatGPT, came out 3 or 4 years ago? Do you find that a lot of leaders are still stuck in the mindset of what it was instead of what it is now?
I would say there are CEOs, executives that they see the opportunities that they can benefit from with large language models. For example, we have more and more data generated today because everything is online, digitalized, and based on the research by Statistica, we generate, a medium-sized company actually generate between 100 to 500 gigabytes per day. So if you think about it, it's really impossible to be able to analyze that data, to be able to get the most out of it and get some insights. So with this large language model, that opportunity it's possible to do better analysis, get insights, and even have information at a fingertip right now. But beside large language model, what I was looking at how healthcare industry is leveraging this technology. And for them, for example, they're looking at large NDA model. It's like connecting data around large DNA model. So they're looking at how they can connect DNAs to get better insights, and even there is a research that they're trying to generate human through that large NDA model. So the question is like, whatever industry you're in, what that connection would look like for you. One portion of clients that I'm working with, they're from construction industry. So for the construction industry, it could be what that large building model could look like, how we can figure out a building is performing during operation, how we can optimize it and make it more sustainable. Or if you look at the finance industry, what that large finance model would look like, how we can connect our data and just go beyond a large language model itself.
I'm really glad you focused some of your comments on the massive amount of information that even a mid-sized or medium-sized organization generates on a daily basis. I think that that's something that gets overlooked. And one of my personal theories is that AI was inevitable simply based on the amount of information that humanity generates on an annual basis. So to make sense of this, I think it might make sense for us to talk a little bit about the four architects, or archetypes rather, of AI adoption that you've proposed. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you've got 4 levels. You talk about tinkerers, adopters, strategic innovators, and transformers. Did I get that right?
Correct. Actually, it's 5, but you 5. Got it correctly. Okay, no worries. So it's in the
perfect.
book.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes. I just hold it here for the audience to see it, and I have it framed in the Disrupted book. Actually, I wrote this book. We wrote it for architecture and engineering industry, but people are reading it, and one of the feedback that we get is like, this book could be for everyone. Why you just put the text here? And I think it was a mistake. We should have made it for the broader audience, but that's okay. But as you can see here in this pyramid, it shows actually that people are bystanders and they're waiting to see what happens because they believe that AI is just a hype. And the value that they would get out of these situations, what's happening, is not even zero. They're being left behind because their competitors, they're using AI, they're delivering better services to their clients. So it's like a lose opportunities for them just to wait. And then the top layer is the consumer you mentioned. And consumers are those who are using AI without knowing what AI is. They heard about ChatGPT or other AI tools and they just install it, they go and play with it, but they don't have that fundamental understanding of AI. So they can't go beyond what these tools are doing because they don't know the fundamental. And by fundamental, I mean it's like LLMs is one branch of AI itself. And not sure if it helps to define what AI is. AI is basically a branch of computer science that has root. We usually use the metaphor analogy, the root tree analogy. So if you look at the tree, the whole tree is like your AI system, and it has a root in science, in mathematics, in psychology, and the branches are different AI techniques. And LLMs is a combination of multiple of those AI techniques like NLP, natural language processing, or machine learning. And people need to understand those techniques as well, because when they understand it, they know it's beyond just chatting with the system, getting a response, how you can analyze an image and get a better insight of that image. For example, in agriculture, they use it to see if fruits are ripe or ready to be picked up or not. And consumers, they don't have that knowledge. So their level of using a tool is just limited to what that tool is doing. They're not pushing the boundary. So of course they won't get that value that is possible. And then on top of it, which is actually a lot, is tinkerer. Like they know to some extent what AI is, but they're just tinkering around, experimenting with this tool, shiny object that is out there. Oh, what's the latest AI tool that you're playing with it? Let me know. It's like Cloud, Gemini, GPT, or like Seek, anything else that is in the market. And if you think about it, every day something is popping up, and if we just want to jump from one tool to another tool, we won't go that far. And if you look at it in an organization level, like what you want to tell your employees, like which tools they should use. Today is like GPT, tomorrow is Copilot, the day after is something else. Those tech vendors come to you with their tools and you're like, oh, let's try it. And eventually your employees get tech fatigue, AI fatigue. They're like, oh, we tried that, it didn't work. I feel like you want to say something, Chad.
No, I'm agreeing with you. I see that fatigue and that vendor fatigue constantly with folks, because the nature of the way these tools are advancing, I think a lot of folks make decisions based on where the gaps are, and so they're reaching for 2, 3, 4 different types of tools, and then as the tools advance, there's less of a need for multiple sets of tools as opposed to just a really good, well-defined one that your team knows how to use. So I couldn't agree more with the point that you're making. Please continue through the levels there.
And the top layer, like we talk about bystanders, like no actions, and then consumers, thinkers. On top of thinkers, we have like adopters, and these levels are coming from years of discussions, communication for the last 5 years with executives with different companies, and then we categorize them, okay, what they do, what their responses to AI is today. And the adopters are those that are trying to have a strategy, and they're like, okay, what our strategy should be, like what we should look for rather than just chasing a shiny object in the market. And adopters, they have a plan, they educated their employees, and they know what they want to do, and they take it from there. For adopters, actually, they have this strategy aligned with their business strategy. People think that their business AI strategy is their business strategy, and is not the correct assumption. Actually, your AI strategy should accelerate your business strategy, because that's the main goal. You want to keep the company, you want to like succeed, you want to serve your client better. So how that AI strategy can enable that opportunity. And the top one is a strategic innovator. And when we talk about the strategic innovator, some reaction is like, oh, it's too much. Yeah, like we don't want to like be the disruptor here. It's not about that. The strategic innovators, they basically think about AI beyond the tool. And they think about AI, how it changes our workflows, what our culture should be, like what we need to do to prepare our people. So the focus of strategic innovators is on how we can prepare our organization for the age of AI, rather than just bringing like or testing tools, AI tools. They're thinking about their people, they're thinking about their business models, the whole ecosystem, clients. There are some cases that clients are pushing back. They're like, oh, in contract, they mentioned that you shouldn't use AI. And like how you can align them, how you can bring them on board, and also your operation system. One example that I usually use is back in time, we used to keep ice in wooden box, and then the fridge was invented, and still when fridge was invented, people keeping fridge in a wooden box. We didn't need wooden box anymore, right? Now that we bring AI to our workflows, to our company, like what changes we need to make in our process and organization. And these are the things that nuances that innovation adopters are thinking about.
Mm-hmm. So if we step back and we look at your framework, at your pyramid, maybe not as a pyramid, but as a continuum. Let's think of it as a spectrum. Where do you find that most companies that are coming to you land on that spectrum right now?
I would say thinkers. We usually run that survey and we ask people to say where they see themselves. And most of the time they're between thinkers, consumers, and some of them like top thinkers, but barely in innovation adopters. And in some cases, they don't even want to be there. They think that is costly. But but it's not. It's just like you need to prepare the whole organization, and it's just beyond adopting a tool. And the question is like how you can distribute your investment in AI in a way that you can cover quick wins. So you can make some progress as like an adopter, and then your maybe 20% of that investment could go for a strategic innovator side, so you can differentiate yourself in the market rather than just adopt different technologies because your competitors, they do the same.
I would imagine, since you've said that most folks fall into the tinkerer phase, that this is going to resonate with you, but tell me if it doesn't. I have met a lot of tinkerers that proudly think they are not a tinkerer, right? They think they're beyond that tinkerer phase, but they're stuck. So I'm interested in your perspective on this. What are some warning signs that you are stuck in the tinkerer phase?
I love you brought it up, Chad, because the differentiation between thinkers and adopters is a little bit blurry. The reason is thinkers, they think, okay, now I want to search for this information, so this tool helped me better, and yes, I have a plan because I want to solve this issue. But that plan is most likely in a team level or an individual level. But if you look at the adopter, that plan is in an organization level, the whole ecosystem level. And that's a big differentiator here, because you're right, the line could be blurry. People think I have a goal and that's why I'm going try that tool. But the question is it like just you as an individual, or is it a team, or is it across the whole organization? And how is aligned with your business strategy? Most companies, even mid-sized companies, they have a plan for the next 3 to 5 years. So how those tools adoption can enable, accelerate that plan that you have in place?
I would imagine that you find, and I think you even put this in your framework, that culture is very critical, even ahead of business model and operations. And I would imagine you find when you work with organizations that there are a great many that aren't putting culture first. And I'm interested in your experiences about leaders that have made the mistake of not putting culture first and skipping that step as part of the AI process. So what have you found with that?
A few years ago, like it was 3 years ago, we had an AI workshop with board members. It was a full day AI workshop. And the night before, there was like a networking session that we hang out together, and we met the board members, employees of that company. And one of the board members, she was a senior lady. She came to us and she was like, just like doing an intro, and then she was like, you're going to do the workshop tomorrow. And we're like, yes, we're excited to do so. And she was like, I'm a little bit skeptical about AI, and I'm not sure, I'm worried about the next generation, if they're going to have job, and like what we're going to do. And we talked a little bit about what AI really is, and we mentioned let's talk about it more tomorrow during the workshop itself. After the workshop, it was like an 8-hour session. She came to us, and this is the exact sentence that she said. She was like, you converted me. Yeah. If you think about that, what has changed in less than 24 hours? It was just a training. Yes.
Yeah. Mindset.
It's like understanding what AI is and looking at it. I see AI beyond just a tool, but it still is a tool, right? It's just you unplug and then it's gone. So just understanding that it's a tool is here to augment us, to augment our people, to augment our business, that changed her mindset. And still we are hearing the same fear from board members, executives, or even employees. Employees mainly, they're worried about losing jobs, but executives, they're a little bit skeptical about AI itself. And that's where, like, when education comes in, it changes that mindset. It's like giving people a car and ask them to ride. Imagine it's like back when the car was invented, you give people a car and ask them go and drive. You're going to have many accidents, right? Because nobody taught us how to drive. But if you educate them how a car works, how they can use it, how they can drive safely, that changes the whole spectrum. And that's where the culture of innovation, changing the mindset, training, they're really important to make sure that you have that alignment across the whole organization, from board members to executives to employees itself.
Your remarks are, I think, on point for where we are at this particular period in time. And it was really interesting. So as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking back to a lot of conversations I've had with execs over the last several years about AI and also employees. And I've seen a shift where I'm seeing fewer skeptical leaders of organizations now and more that are, I would say, more afraid that they're missing out, right? That they're missing the boat. And I've seen that fear and a higher level of skepticism actually translate down to the employee level. So your remarks about getting folks educated, getting them up to speed, I think is directly on point. And you also talked about safety. And I'm interested, what does that look like from a psychological standpoint with employees? What does psychological safety, when you're talking with them culturally about AI, look like in practice? How do you make them feel safe, both with using it and that it's not going to, quote, steal their jobs, right?
And safety, I assume you're not talking about data privacy, it's about safety of employees, psychology side.
Correct.
That you mentioned. So when you pick up a project and when you include people in that project, you let them talk and being heard, that changes the whole game. There was a conversation that I had with one of the executives of a company, and we were talking about what it was like a discovery call, what an AI strategy is and how they can think about it. He was like, we brought several AI tools, but no one adopted it. And the reason is like executives, they brought those tools. It's not like pushing those tools, so the adoption rate is low. There are many cases that people are reaching out, they're asking how I can get the highest ROI from Microsoft Copilot, because Microsoft is pushing Copilot in all their products to all their users, and people want to make sure that they get, and it's not cheap, so they want to make sure that they get the highest ROI. If it's push, it's really difficult to get that adoption rate. And there were some cases that companies ran a survey, and I was talking to one of them. He was like, one of the quotes from their employees was, you're bringing these AI tools to replace me, so I'm not going to do anything. Because it's coming from the top level. It's kind of like, do this, do what I'm asking you to do. But if you turn it around, make it like they come to you and ask them what are the new repetitive thing that they have in their work, where AI can help them. Let them be heard, have them in the conversation, and let them feel that they're part of that journey. And it's not just like executive-led, is the whole organization-led. That changes the whole game. And that's why when we work with companies, we have both sides, from executives and also, like we call it, AI task force, that is coming from employees in the weeds, and they work together. They have conversations from the business side, from day-to-day work, and they're trying to meet in the middle, somewhere that employees are not worried AI is taking over their job. And even they go find tools based on the plan that we put together. They come and say, hey, this tool is helping me this way. Maybe we want to take a look at it. So if we include them in that conversation, the adoption rate would change, because it's coming from them and not the executive, not from us telling them, go and use it.
That makes a lot of sense, and it really resonates with me because I talk often about a bottom-up approach to AI implementation versus a top-down. And I'm interested in your experience, so I want to dig a little deeper on that. For the last several years, there's been a lack of AI tools that provide processes and workflows that fit for most organizations. And instead, it's been a lot of determining what the value is in the use case by working with the employees on the front lines. And I'm interested because you mentioned, the employee surfaced this, maybe this tool will work, maybe that tool will work. So I'm interested in this. Are you finding that there are better, more well-developed AI tools now that companies can drop in to help employees, or are you still finding that you've got to create the value and understand the processes from the ground up for the most part? Does that make sense?
It does, and it's a tricky question.
I know.
Yeah, because when most of these companies, they've been around for decades. They have a process and they have a workflows. They have relationships that they've been following, and changing those, like replacing them with a workflow, AI-driven workflows, is really, really challenging. It can't happen in a night or even in a year. It takes time. And earlier you mentioned some companies, executives, they have FOMO and they wonder what's happening. And it's not something that they can finish it up in a month or even a year. It's going to be a journey. And regarding that workflow, the best way is, I'm an engineer, so for me, the best way to solve something is breaking it down to small pieces so I can manage and handle it. And I'm not multitask, so I have to really break it down in multiple pieces. And that's where we can treat AI as well. Like we have a workflows, how we can breaking it down in multiple pieces, small chunks, while we have that big vision of having AI over the whole workflows. Because again, they've been around, they've had that workflow working for years, even though it's time consuming, repetitive, but replacing that with like a off the shelf is going to be risky, it's going to be difficult, but they can look at it from different pieces and then they replace it, like they use AI piece by piece, and eventually they get that workflows automated or AI augmented, I would say. It depends. You can either automate some process, people really don't want to do it, but they have to do. And there are some cases that people need help, and that's where AI augmentation comes in. And then if they're new companies, they have more flexibilities, right? Because they're new, they just started, probably not that many people. So for them, it's easier to look at the whole workflow and see how they can create an AI augmented workflows. But since the majority of companies, I assume your audience, they've been in the market, in the business for a long time, they need to break their workflows, their process into small chunks and then eventually build block by block. Mm-hmm. I'm curious to know your point of view, Chad.
Well, my point of view is very similar to yours, Sam. I think that organizations, and to use your words, that have developed their own processes over several decades, I think they're going to be very reluctant to shift unless they really see the value. However, it's very difficult to demonstrate the value until you get them engaged in that project. So it's almost like a circular argument there. I don't want to make a move because I can't see the value, but I can't surface the value until I make a move, right? So
chicken and egg problem.
Very much so. Very much so. From my perspective, I am not seeing a lot of good drop-in ready AI tools. What I am seeing are a lot of AI bolt-on tools to existing enterprise level systems that don't do very much at all, quite frankly. It's a Me Too movement, and I don't mean like the movement we had in the U.S. I mean it's like Me Too, I've got AI, look at me, we've got AI. Well, no, you don't. You bolted a large language model onto our enterprise resource planning system, and it works meh. So that's kind of what I'm seeing out there. I don't know if that resonates with you or not.
It does. I'm glad you brought it up because there are cases that we look at the tech, and it's really difficult to differentiate what's the difference between this and like Copilot or GPTs. Like why we have different versions of the same tool that can solve the same problem. I'm hoping that people can take it beyond that. And when people talk about hype, I see this as a hype. Like there are many tools out there, the investment, everything. I think that part is a hype. Like everyone can build a tool, can build their own AI agent, and then bring it to market and say, hey, subscribe to my AI tool. But AI itself is not a hype. The way that we're leveraging it, building tools and trying to sell, yes, it might be, because we're all trying to solve the same problem, even in the same way, not like looking at it differently.
Yeah. I do think that we have probably scratched no more than 1% to 2% of the possibility of this technology. I've heard some AI thought leaders like Ethan Mollick and others talk about the fact that if all development on AI systems stopped today, we'd still have at least a decade of runway to leverage what we've already built. And I just don't feel, even experts in the field like you and others, we are just barely scratching the surface of what's possible with this for a variety of reasons.
There is a project by MIT, and I'll be happy to send you the report. There is a project called the Iceberg Project. The Iceberg Project, what I really like, they got the whole labor data, the US labor data, and they, based on the skill set that we have, based on the job that we do, they simulated it in an AI environment. Like each of us, we have our own AI digital twin, and they try to simulate to see the impact of AI on the job market itself and the capabilities. And they exactly mentioned the point you highlighted. Like right now, scratching the surface, we just use it for emails or like Max writing a blog and this kind of stuff. And they mentioned that the value, the impact that it has is 5x larger. And that's why they use the iceberg analogy here.
I am familiar with Project Iceberg. I've read some of the information there. And I think it may have been that or another paper that started me thinking about the nature of how work gets done with respect to the individual. And I'll expand on that a little bit because I'm interested in your take on this. We're hearing an awful lot of talk about agents, right? Agentic AI, and that's a promise that hasn't fully been realized yet. But I think we will start to see that promise become realized in 26 and beyond. What interests me is not organizational agentic AI, but individually attached agentic AI. So let's say I'm a subject matter expert with 20 years experience in something, right? It's one thing for the company to start to train agents based on what I'm doing. It's another for me to infuse that agentic AI with my skills, my knowledge, my experience from the last several decades. And I'm wondering where that goes and whether individual employees and humans will have AIs attached with them that go from job to job with them to help perform that work. Because there's a serious question there, I think, about intellectual property.
Yes. And if they use... Your question has many layers.
Oh, yeah.
And it makes me excited because I was thinking about it when everything moved to the cloud. We started we're generating lots of data per day. I mentioned earlier, like 500 gigabytes for on average for a medium-sized company, between 100 to 500. And when you talk to companies, and I'm sure you've heard that a lot, they're like, we don't have data, or our data is everywhere, it's fragmented. We don't know where they are, or we don't have access to the data that we have. Like there is like a big data problem, and it's not just like one industry specific problem, it's every single industry problem. Even myself, that I'm like a small company, I have that problem itself. And then I'm looking at agentic AI, because right now I can build an agent like in less than 5 minutes, right? Everyone can do it, not just me. Like everyone can build their own AI agent in just 5 minutes with a few prompts. And I'm thinking like eventually we'll get to the point that we are today with data, and everyone will say, our employees have AI agents, we don't know where they are, we don't know what they do, we don't know which data they have access to, we don't know even those agents work anymore, if they've been like retired agents or like, we'll get into the agents chaos that we are today with data chaos. And that's the concern that I have, besides what you mentioned in terms of the intellectual property itself, the agentic management. Like we talk about data management, right? Like how agentic management would look like for an organization. And your employees can build, like each person can create their own agent. You can have your own agent for the whole organization. And then you have agents that are coming from external, like off the shelf agents. Imagine how it's going to be in a year. It's going to be chaos if they don't plan to have agentic management. And I hope we learn from what we did and still doing it with our data management, and try to step back and say, okay, I don't want to get there again. I don't want to in 3 years say, oh, we have agent everywhere, like help me, like data fragmentation and now AI agent fragmentation, like how we can look at it differently and have a plan.
Yeah.
It was a long answer to your question.
No, I think it's a very well thought out answer, and it goes, to circle us back around to the present, I think it goes directly to the question of governance, which I know is something that you've also talked about. Yeah. And I'm wondering, for a mid-sized company without a dedicated AI team, what does practical AI governance look like now? And would that then help them in the future as we get to that agentic chaos that you just described? But in the here and the now, what does practical AI governance look like?
One of the entrepreneurs that I admire and is Jeff Bezos, because of his mindset in terms of being in macro level, like knowing what's happening in terms of being visionary. When he started that back in 2000 with .com, he got lots of pushback. People were laughing at him, and I'm sure you've seen those, but he made that vision reality. And regarding your question about governance, what he did was that process. So what Bezos did, he sent an email to all his employees, and I think it was back in 2008, if I'm not mistaken with the year, and asked them all to have one single place for their APIs. So everyone, they had, with their data, like process, everyone had their own thing, the system, and he introduced a system that everyone should share what they're building, and they can access it through APIs itself. And through that, it ended up to have AWS, that is the big money maker for them today, right? And through that, standardizing the process, setting the rule, and his email was ended up, you do this, have a nice day, thank you, bye, something like this. So I'm not saying be like that. I'm not saying like, it's not like carrot versus, stick versus carrot. Like what's that middle line, how we can set those policies for our employees, so when they finish a project, we can have a process to deliver data. We usually deliver work to clients, but we don't think about how we can deliver that work internally, so we can have it somewhere documented, so we can leverage that later. That process in most companies, at least those that I'm talking to, they don't have it. They're struggling with, or they're trying to find a way to have it, and standardizing that process. You can start from one small project. It doesn't have to be a complex one. Start from one small project, see how you can track data, where it goes, how it's generated, and how you can capture that data, and pilot it, see how it works, and gradually expand the scope until you can scale it across the whole organization. Otherwise, if you wanna solve the data governance problem in just one single day. That's impossible. It's like boiling the ocean.
I like the simplicity with which you frame that, because I think the more cumbersome and the more complicated we try to make our answers or our solutions to these very big problems, the more out of control they become. So it's as simple as one place, one rule, one place. Have a nice day. Bye. Right?
Yeah.
All right. Let's shift gears here a little bit, and let's talk about the human edge, because I know that's something that you've spoken about before, which is this idea that AI is going to elevate us rather than replace us in terms of strategic leadership. Can you speak to that a little bit more and expand on that? Tell us what you think executives should be thinking about with respect to their own roles as AI takes on more traditional analytical tasks.
I'm thinking how I can break down your question, because I can tackle it from multiple angles. One is the humanity itself, and I believe the power that we have as a human is adaptation and evolve. We can simply understand the environment, the nature, and evolve accordingly. There was a similar fears, similar reactions that we have to AI today. They had it back to the Industrial Revolution. People went to the factories, broke down machineries because they thought that they're going to replace their jobs, but eventually see where we are. Those machines, they haven't replaced us. And the question is with AI, what that evolution will look like for us, how we can learn and adapt to this new environment, how we can know ourselves better, our power, our strength, and invest in those powers and strengths that we have and take it from there. I'm looking at AI, sometimes I'm saying that maybe those jobs that we're doing, sitting behind the computer and typing, they didn't meant to be for us. We were just like an interim role, like an elevator conductor. Back in time, there was someone pushing buttons. But if I see someone in an elevator today, I feel like whether it's a luxury place or the elevator is broken. So maybe these jobs that we're doing, some of them, they've never meant for us. We were just like interim, filling out the role. And
I love that, by the way. And that's a wonderful example about the elevator operator. And I love the way that you framed that in terms of we were just a placeholder. This was just an interim role until we can hand it off to a system better equipped to automate it. That's great. Sorry to interrupt you, but I just thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, no worries. And then the question is imagine ourselves as that elevator conductor. So what's next for us? That elevator conductor, they found job, right? After that. So how we can rethinking? It's a little bit difficult because we're kind of predicting future. We want to see where we can fit. It's going to be a challenge for all of us. And we just need to be patient and more analytical about the situation, what's happening. And if we had an answer, probably everyone was applying for that position, for that job. So try to see okay, AI is taking over these pieces or is helping me with those pieces. What's next for me? I think it goes back to our earlier conversation about mindset. We need to change that mindset and see in terms of humanity what we meant for, how we can leverage that power of changing adaptation with this new change itself.
You mentioned the historical piece where humans would go in and smash industrial equipment. Very familiar with that. We have yet to have a general purpose technology come out where there hasn't been tremendous human pushback. And I don't think we've seen that yet. I don't know if 26 will be the year that we see humans smashing AI data centers or what, but I think that's going to happen. And I'm curious, when we get to that societal point, based on your view, how do organizations, how do leaders build trust with employees that are hearing one thing in the media and seeing this anti-AI rhetoric? Because I do believe it will continue to ratchet up. I don't think we're anywhere near the peak of that yet. So how do you build that trust?
You're referring to that Luddite group, but like
yes, I am.
AI version of it.
Yep.
And again, back to what we were discussing earlier, have people involved. And I think it's beyond organizations, executives itself. I think that's the point that the government and societies need to come in and help shape that, and like what that future could look like, what they're doing with job loss, because job is changing and some people are losing their jobs, and that's we can't neglect that, and we can say that it's not happening. It's happening, and it's not just, by the way, because of AI itself. Some portion of, at least in Silicon Valley, the job loss is like they're trying to move them to offshore for cost saving reason, and that's the other factor that is playing and pushing toward this job replacement itself. But back to people, I think this is where we need to work all together, like governments, organizations, and everyone themselves. And one thing that is happening, and I'm curious to know your point of view, in most companies, HR people, they're not involved in those conversations. I was talking to a CEO and he was like, oh, I haven't thought to include my HR. And I believe HR is like a backbone of a company, because they're in charge of hiring. They're bringing talent to the company. They're in charge of L&D, learning and development, and they're in charge of bonuses and incentives, right? Yeah. And these are critical pieces for people to work. So for changing that mindset, my suggestion is include your HR leaders in those conversations. Actually, I just published a white paper around that topic. It's on our website, yegatech.com, free resources, and it's free to download, of course. You can go and see like how you can bring HR on board and where they can take the lead. I believe we need to include HR in conversation in our AI strategy if we haven't yet, because they need to look at what the new hiring will look like and how job description can change. I bet probably 60% of job descriptions are still the same, even though AI is here. And also like the L&D, like with that learning and development, the new process, you can help people to find their way, to know why AI is here, how it can help them. So at least we won't end up in that Luddite situation, and how that learning and development actually could be personalized. Earlier you mentioned about leveraging AI. So how we can leverage AI to personalize that learning and development, because back in my time in corporate, they were rolling out the same L&D for everyone with 30 years of experience, with 1 year of experience, or just like a fresh grad. How you can personalize it based on who they are, what they do, their level of expertise, and also incentivizing them. Right now, most AI initiatives are happening without any rewards, any incentives, and employees wonder, what's in it for me? I'm busy with my day-to-day work. Why I should help you? Let me finish the job because I need to report to my manager. So HR really can help to incentivize that process. And I think if we can get help from the HR side, at least we can help with changing that mindset people have. And hopefully no one goes and break down data centers.
I couldn't agree more. I was keynote speaker at a statewide HR conference about a year and a half ago, and spoke on this topic. And even with the folks that I spoke with, both on stage and then afterwards, I followed up with some of them just in the last month or two even, and what I continue to find is that HR is continually being sidelined from this. And it reminds me of a mistake that organizations made 40, 50 years ago when we first brought IT into organizations. We brought IT in, and we slotted it under finance because the IT mainframes were predominantly there to process finance and do financial functions. Now we're making the same mistake with AI. We're bringing it in, we're slotting it under IT, and to your point, we're not involving HR. We're not examining this from the larger perspective of the skills and the training, the development of the humans that are necessary to make this work. So yes to the fact that HR should be involved, number one. And second, we've seen this movie before, and it has decades-long repercussions. So let's try and avoid the mistakes that we made 50 years ago, people.
Yeah, I love that. I had a conversation roundtable with about 12 HR leaders, and one of them, she was like, our employees are using AI. We know that they haven't been that level productive, but now they are. How we can manage bonuses and everything. Think about it. This is like a new way of work. Maybe those incentives should change. So if people can do the fast, like before you were rewarding them, giving them bonuses based on their productivity, maybe now we need to step back and revisit those incentives and see like what employees' performance metrics should be.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do think that the way that we measure the outputs, and especially the way that we assess the work of the folks that are doing it, that's going to need to change. So yes, couldn't agree more. So what did you find in your roundtable conversation with those HR directors? Are they feeling like they've been sidelined, or are they feeling like they actually have a voice in this entire process?
Sideline. The majority sideline. And I like what you mentioned in terms of IT. I saw a pattern actually in that conversation. I saw most companies, doesn't matter which industries they're from, they're struggling to know where to start, what to do with all these changes and nuances. And they're trying to see, like, they have that FOMO you mentioned earlier. And the other thing is like they just pass it to the IT team because they think that it's like bringing a new software to the company. So IT just can go get the subscription and manage, take it from there. But it's beyond that. It's like IT operation and business all should work together. And that was the pattern. I was like, that's really interesting. Like, we all have same questions. We're trying to solve same problems. Doesn't matter which industry we're from. Probably the level of complexities could be different, but there's still everyone is struggling with similar questions.
Yeah. You know, I think that goes to the idea that we're all on a journey here together with this new technology. Yet I'm not sure that a lot of folks are excited about it. I think that there's a lot of fatigue out there, and this came along, and I get a sense from a lot of folks that I call, because I probably have, I don't know how it goes with your consultancy, but I bet I have 2 or 3 discovery calls for every client that is ready, willing, and able to engage. And I feel like there's a lot of fatigue out there from folks in terms of, oh boy, it's just one more thing we've got to wrap our arms around. Everybody's talking AI now. I guess we got to do AI. Do you find that there's a level of fatigue or weariness out there?
Totally, yes, totally. And it's like a checkbox.
Yes.
Like they get together and like executive team and they nominate a few people within that team and they go and find like maybe a consultant, or they take it, they do it themselves, like they try to solve the problem themselves. I think bringing a consultant, one of the big advantages is alignment. Because I remember back in time when the company that I was working with, we were trying to get rid of our legacy software, move everything to cloud. So like having a consultant making that alignment would help better. Otherwise, it's just like one person or two trying to get everything solved while they're busy. And when it comes from like an external voice, it's easier to make that alignment across the whole board. But there, yes, the AI fatigue is real because it's changing, and people think that it's a checkbox. Okay, I work with that consultant, I'm done. Yeah. Let's move on to the next thing. One thing that I'm talking to my clients about is looking at it as a journey. Mm-hmm. It's like a journey. My co-founder, he used a marathon example because he's a runner, and it's like a marathon, like you need to keep up and do it. I think it's just a journey, like it's a journey that doesn't end. Yeah. Like it goes back to that earlier conversation that I was like bring point, like try to solve in chunks. So you solve it and then you're like, okay, I'm done, check. Yes, that's where you check the box. What's on top of it? What's the next layer? What's the next layer? So that way you can just check, but it's not just, okay, let's do 3 months, 6 months. I'm done. We are an AI company. It doesn't work this way. Yeah.
And I think you're right to push back against, no offense to your co-founder, but I think you're right to push back and use the idea of a journey versus a marathon, because with the pace of development, if this was a marathon, and this was the initial marathon, 3 months later, here's the distance, then here's the distance, then here's the distance, right? It's like we keep changing the goalposts in terms of what that finish line could look like.
Yeah. So. I appreciate runners. I'm not a runner. I'm a fan of martial arts. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, don't corner her in a dark alley.
No.
Oh my. All right, Sam. Our time here is drawing to a close. An hour goes very quickly, and you had suggested a question that I actually want to close with, and the question that you had suggested, and I've been kind of keeping it in reserve here, is what is the one question that every CEO should ask themselves about AI right now? So I'm interested in your answer to that question and why that question specifically.
Why that question? Because I want to make sure that everyone succeeds in their AI journey. Is just like a challenge. Some companies may not survive this game, we all know, and it's not going to happen like this year or next year, probably in the next few years. And that one question that we talk about was that question that every executive should ask themselves, is like, put yourself in your employee's shoes and say what's in it for them. What's in it for them? Why they should support your vision? Because it's a CEO-driven initiative. CEO has that power to lead their executive team, has the power to lead the whole organization. That's why it should be a CEO-led initiative. And it doesn't mean that CEO getting like day-to-day nuances. It's just like leading it and let people do the work, but put yourself in your employees' shoes and ask yourself what's in it for them. And the reason is I've been working with executives and also employees in weeds, and we've had several conversations around, I'm busy with my day-to-day work, I need to finish this project in a week, and why I should like help, and why I haven't been promoted. I've been working on this AI. I've been helping for the last 6 months, but nothing happened. Why no bonuses? Why no even let's say town hall recognition, as simple as this? And then they get demotivated. And they're like smart employees, by the way. They're like, they want to do it. They have the passion. They have the energy. But after 3 months, that energy drops because they don't see any appreciation. They don't see anything. And they wonder, okay, why I should be involved, what's in it for me? And I think that's the question every executive should ask themselves, what's in it for my employees? And the other thing, if they think about that question, they can increase the adoption rate. Right now, 3 years ago, people were like, where to start, what to do? Now they say, how we can increase the adoption rate? To increase the adoption rate, you need to think about your employees. You need to keep that motivation high so that you can get the ROI out of your investment.
Perfect. I think that's a wonderful question to end on, that everyone should be asking themselves Monday morning. Sam, where can our listeners go to learn more about your framework, the work that you do, maybe buy your book? What would that look like? Where should they be pointing their browsers?
We have several resources on our Yegatech.com website. And if you wonder what Yegatech means in Persian, Yega is a short for Yegane, it's the girl's name. And Yegane means unique, outstanding. And we believe like every client, they're unique. And we want to treat them unique. That's why we came up with the name Yegatech. So just go to yegatech.com. Under free resources, you can see white papers around HR, talent management, and also business investment itself. And if you're interested, you can subscribe to our newsletter. Our newsletters are mainly sharing insights and trying to help you to navigate this new transformation.
Wonderful. I appreciate you sharing that, and we'll certainly drop those links in the show notes as well.
And Chad, I want to thank you for having me on your podcast, and also doing this is lots of work. So I appreciate that you're helping every industry to have access to the knowledge and learning more.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind. I enjoyed our conversation today, and I think our listeners would gain a tremendous amount of value from learning more about your work. I know I learned a number of things today, and I really enjoyed our time together. So thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Chad. Thanks, everyone. Good luck with your AI journey.
And as Sam said, thank you, everyone. And thank you particularly for listening once again to AI for the C-Suite. If this episode was useful, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, follow us on LinkedIn, and check out AIforthec-suite.com. And until next time, keep your algorithms running, your leadership evolving, and your AI in check. Take care, everybody.